The Starfish Thrower, Why Every Effort Matters. The storm had raged through the night, fierce and unrelenting. The next morning, the Brazilian shoreline bore the scars of its fury: twisted driftwood, seaweed tangled like ropes, and thousands of starfish strewn helplessly across the beach, glistening under the early sun. Pedro, a boy of about 10 with sand-speckled hair and wide, observant eyes, stood barefoot on the wet sand. The ocean had always felt like a friend to him, vast, mysterious, and alive. But today, it looked like it had cried too much, leaving behind all these tiny, breathing creatures who couldn't find their way back. Without a word, he knelt and picked up a starfish. Its soft body pulsed faintly in his palm. Gently, he flung it back into the surf, where it disappeared beneath a returning wave. Then he did it again. And again. A few yards up the beach, an older man named Miguel, a seasonal vendor who sold drinks and crafts, watched with crossed arms and a raised brow. He had seen the storm, the starfish, and the futility of it all. Shaking his head, he walked down to the boy. "Pedro," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief, "you're wasting your time. There are thousands of them. You can't possibly make a difference." Pedro didn't stop. He scooped up another starfish, tossed it into the sea, and turned to Miguel. His voice was calm but certain. "I made a difference to that one." Miguel opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked at the boy, then at the beach, strewn with lives fading beneath the sun. He crouched, hesitated, and then picked up a starfish himself. It felt strange in his weathered hands. He flung it into the water, the splash barely audible. He stood silently for a moment, and then picked up another. From the boardwalk, a jogger paused. She watched as Pedro and Miguel continued their quiet mission. Curious, she wandered over, picked up a starfish, and followed suit. A couple with a child joined in. Soon, a dozen people, locals and tourists alike, were combing the beach, working side by side without needing to speak much. By late afternoon, the beach was alive with laughter, teamwork, and the occasional cheer as someone found a particularly large starfish and gave it an enthusiastic throw. People brought buckets, dug small pools to keep the starfish cool until they could return them, and formed lines to speed the process. By sunset, hundreds, perhaps thousands, of starfish had been saved. The beach, once a scene of helplessness, had been transformed by hope and shared purpose. Miguel, now smiling and sweat-streaked, stood beside Pedro, who was rinsing his sandy hands in a tide pool. "You were right, Pedro," he said quietly. "It wasn't about saving them all," Pedro replied, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "It was about doing what we could." And on that beach, where the waves met the land and people found connection in compassion, the smallest actions had created something bigger. Proof that even in a vast world, every effort, every kindness, and every small act of courage truly mattered.